afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're going to dive into Formula for Success, tips and tricks in Excel. My name is Emma. I'm the marketing coordinator here at FIT. Please excuse any puns that I might make as I introduce our Excel powerhouse, our presenter today, Nissa Franks. Nissa is a client engagement manager here at FIT, and she has been taming Excel for over 20 years and is completely self-taught. So you could say that she really knows how to pivot information. And as a quick fun fact about Nissa, waffles are her favorite breakfast food, which in addition to all of her awesome experience, really makes her the excellent choice for this presentation. I'm gonna stop the corny puns and I'm gonna let Nissa take it away.
Thanks, Emma. Really excited to be here today to share Excel with all of you. So before we dive in, I just wanted to quickly acknowledge that you all come from different backgrounds and different skill levels in Excel. And so this may be basic for some of you and advanced to others, but my hope is that you all leave here today learning something new and helpful. Our agenda today is we're going to spend around 20 minutes on some demos, and the rest of the time we're going to reserve for Q&A. And just to set the stage right now, I'm going to be using a lot of keyboard shortcuts to really focus on the content and the examples that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start. We're going to start with basics, then with some formulas in there, some basic formulas, and then some advanced formulas, pivot tables, and then we're going to have a couple examples of how to utilize Copilot within Excel. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll take it away. All right. So hopefully you can all see my screen here. And so we're going to start, like I said, with the basics, with some format painter, and then we'll show you a couple formulas on how to utilize some of this information here in this table. So as you can see, I've got a nice little list here of some staff members and their email addresses, and it's all in different types of formatting. And so what we're going to start with first is we're just going to start with a format painter so that we can get this looking very, very standard, very similar. We want it all looking the same. I like it all looking the same. We can see that Kelly Kapoor made her name nice and pretty, but we're going to have this nice and standard. So I'm just going to highlight the cells that I want everything else to look like. And I'm going to use this little painter right up here. It's a format painter. And I'm just going to drag that down my entire table. And now you can see it's all the same. So, but as you can see, there's still some things that stand out. So Kevin over here, and put his name all in caps. And I don't want that to look like that. And it looks like we've got another one who might be all lowercase. So I'm going to show you a really quick and easy way using a formula to make this all the same font type. So I want my names in proper name format with the capital the first and then the rest of it lowercase. And there's a really nice, easy way to do that. And I'm going to do that right now just to make sure everybody's is in the same format. So we're going to start with our first formula of the day, which is proper. I'm going to equals. It's very simple. I'm going to write equals and then proper, type out the word proper. And you can see as it's popping up, it's showing you all the things to do next. So I wrote proper, and then it's going to tell me what text I want. I'm going to highlight both of these cells. I'm going to hit enter. Now you can see it didn't really change for Roy because it was already there, but if you look, I'm going to drag this down. Oop. It's going a little slow for me. Here we go. Oh boy. Got a little lag going on, folks. Okay, so you can see now Kevin's right here. That was all uppercase, is now proper. And you can see that the formula up here is editable. So I'm going to copy all this information, Control C, and I'm going to paste values right here. I just want to paste the values of those. Nope, I don't want it there. I want it up here. Paste values right up here. Sorry, got some lag happening. It's sharing my screen. All right. The paste values, it looks like we got a duplicate over here just because I'm not really sure why that happened. But anyway, you can see how that worked with Kevin Malone. And I'm going to go back a couple because it looks like we had. All right, my bad. I think we're okay now. All right, so now you can see that we've got the proper way to type that in. Well, for my email addresses, I want them to be lowercase. So I'm going to go do the same thing, and I'm going to do lower equals lower. Nope, I only want that one. Sorry. Went a little too fast here. Then I'm just going to drag and drop that all the way down, and you can see now it is all lowercase, just the way I wanted it. I'm going to copy that, paste it, and delete. So now we have a nice clean email address list and the way I want it to look. Now, I don't know if some of you are working on some of these types of lists. You want the full name together, not just the first name, last name. So we're going to combine that using another formula called concatenate. And so we're just going to go right up through here and start utilizing that formula, and I'll show you how that works here. So concatenate, which means you're going to bring both a couple of different text strings together. So I want my name to be first name, last name with a space in between. So I'm going to click the first name. I'm going to put a comma, and then the next piece of text is actually a space that doesn't actually exist between these two yet. So I'm going to create that space by putting a quotation mark, space, quotation mark, comma, and now we're going to add our next piece of text right there. So now we've got Roy Anderson. Copy and paste that. And now instead of doing this by hand, where there's lots of opportunity for error, you can do this nice and easy. Now I'm going to paste the values there again, so that now we don't have any more formulas. It is the actual text. So instead of spending, one of my rules that I have for myself in Excel when I'm working in Excel is if I take more than like 5 to 10, 15 minutes max on something, it usually means there's an easier way to do it. And as you can see, I just did a lot of what could be manual typing very quickly by using formulas. All right, so I'm going to move on to our next demo. All right, with our client table. So I've got a bunch of sales reps and all the companies that they are taking care of. And I really want to quickly at a glance to see how many clients Dwight has. So I'm going to use the COUNTIF formula to count how many clients Dwight has. And you can do this for anybody. And this is how it works. And this is just one function of this formula. So we're going to say COUNTIF. And here we're counting within this range right here. So I put a little comma to say that I'm done with that part. So we got the range, and now we want the criteria. So I want to know how many Dwight has. Oh, I think I have to have it. There we go. I think I misspelled it. SCH, look at that. If you don't spell it right, it's not going to give you the right information. So you can see that Dwight has 11 clients, and I think we're going to just check that to make sure it's right. So we're going to highlight, we're going to check and see, are those 11? Yep, right down here, it says count 11. He's got 11 clients. So instead of having to do a lot of working through this table, we can see it really quickly with some formulas. And there's a lot of applications for this, but I want to keep going because there's a lot of things I want to show you today. All right. Here is our big spreadsheet where we've got a lot of information. So you can see we've got our companies, how many effects on that company, and how much they've been sold or how much they purchased over the last 2024 over each month. And so the first thing I want to show you is, we've got the totals for each month, but I want to see the total for the year for each of these companies. So I'm going to start with our first formula here in the sum column. And this is one of the most commonly utilized formulas. Many of you probably already know this, but if you don't, we're going to show it to you right now. Same thing with every other formula. We're going to start with equals sum, parentheses, and then it's going to tell you what you need to put in next. So we're going to sum all of these numbers, anything that's highlighted, and then hit enter. And so we haven't gone over tables quite yet, but I want you to see what that just did. So instead of me having to drag and drop that through the entire table, because we're working in a range that has been established as a table, it automatically sees like, I've used this formula in this column once. I probably want to use it the rest of the time that I'm utilizing this table. And it absolutely exactly what I wanted it to do. It already copied and pasted that sum all the way through. And so I can see at a glance for any of these clients, how much they sold for the entire year or how much they bought in the entire year. And you can see here's the formula up here in the formula bar. So if you ever needed to update that, that's how you do it. All right, so I'm going to go back up. And now we're going to go into a more intermediate advanced formula, which is VLOOKUP that I want to show you today. So I want to know the sales rep who is in charge of each of these companies, because what I also want to do is pivot table this in a second. I want to see how much each sales rep has sold throughout this last year. And I could go back here manually and see, okay, who sold to TGS? Oh, it was Andy. And then I can go here, copy, and then paste it here. But that's going to take me more than 15 minutes. So my rule stands that there is a formula for that, which there is. So we're going to do VLOOKUP. So we're going to start with VLOOKUP. And what do we want to do? And so this formula, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I want you to see the way it functions. It's going to pop up in here and also up here if you are doing any kind of editing in here. It's going to tell you exactly what you need for each one of these values. And so what I want to do, you're going to start with the value you're looking up. I want to find this in this range here. I'm looking for that first piece of information. I want to look for the company here, and I want to pull this information here, the sales rep, into that column. So I'm going to put a comma. So we got our table array. Actually, I think I may have done that. Hold on one second. Let me do this again. VLOOKUP here, comma. Then we go over here. Forgot the comma the first time. So we're going to start with our company, comma. And because what I'm trying to do here, I have 2 columns selected. I want to pull information from the second, put 2 for the second column. And then this last piece is just, if you know, you know, it'll tell you true. If you write true, if you want an approximate match, or false if you want an exact match. I always do false because I want an exact match. So look at that. It knew I wanted that formula in this whole table. It's pulling this rep for this company from the client's table right here. So I'll go back here and you'll notice down here that this one says NA. And that means that this doesn't have an exact match over here. And I happen to know it's because it's not spelled right. So now, there you go. It's all put in there. So you're going to want to copy and paste his values so that it is actual text and it doesn't mess around when you're moving your formulas around. So there you go. There's VLOOKUP. And we're going to now move on to pivot table. And I'm going to move into our pivot table demo right here. So real quick, we're going to do a pivot table. So this is a lot easier than it used to be in the past. So we're going to go up here to insert pivot table. And it's just going to pick out new worksheet. I always do that. It's totally fine. And now you have your pivot table. There you go. Here's all your data that's pulled into this pivot table. So what I want to do is I want to see how much each of my sales reps has sold over 2024. So we're going to start with sales rep and then bring in the sum. And so we've got, you can see really quickly, instead of me having to sort and do all this, like I can do the mental math, I can highlight and I can look down here at the sum down here, but instead of having that, now I have a pivot table that's breaking that all down for me. I want to break this down a little bit further. I want to see how much they've done by company. So I just select that company right here from our little check boxes, and it's bringing this all in a nice, beautiful table that you can see really quickly at a glance how much everybody sold. So you can see that Michael had a really good year, and Phyllis is struggling a little bit behind that, but you can see how much they've had. You can even count how many clients they have at a very quick glance. So pivot tables are a very powerful tool that you can utilize as you're analyzing data in different ways. And I can even break this down further. So if I don't want to see some, I maybe just want to see who had a really good January. You can see by January, you can select multiple months. There you go. It's a very helpful, powerful tool. And I have a couple more minutes, so we're going to go ahead and start with our Copilot demos. I could be in pivot tables all day, but I really want to show you what Copilot can do. So for those of you who are really interested in AI, this is very exciting. I'm going to show you how some really simple, a very simple way that you can utilize Copilot for an email list. So I think many of us have probably had some experience having to deal with some email lists. I don't know about you, but sometimes they can get a little hairy. If you've had some manual input, they can have misspellings, all sorts of things. So I'm going to ask Copilot right now to show me. So I'm going to click on Copilot over here. So when I was originally creating this information, I wanted to have some fake sales data so that we could see what it looked like to utilize some of these things like pivot tables and some of these formulas so that you can see like a really good example of what this would look like and how it could function in a real scenario. And so what I really wanted to do, and like, again, I said to myself, you know, I don't want to spend a ton of time on something that, you know, that could be done with a formula quickly or not. So I asked Copilot, let's go back to Copilot. Here's my other prompt. As I created this prompt ahead of time. There we go. So what I wanted to do was I wanted it to look realistic enough. So I asked it, what formula can I use to randomize data in this table? I would like numbers to go from 0 to 500. 20% of those numbers I'd like to be above 450, and 10% of those numbers to be less than 50. And so I asked this, and then the rest of those be in between. So I asked it for a formula. And so it gave me a nice formula to utilize. And so we've got a nice little formula that we can use right here. I'm going to copy. And so it even tells me how it works. So instead of me having to go on Google and search all these things at length, it gave me a formula that I can just utilize as I want. So I'm going to go ahead. You can see it's using that formula to just randomize some data for me. I'm really glad that you guys got to see that this actually worked properly because it's still randomizing that data. And so now you can see I have a beautiful table full of data that I didn't have to key in hand by hand. It looks kind of real. And now you can now I can utilize that for pivot tables if I want to. So the point of this particular example is there was something that I wanted to do. It was going to take me a lot more time. It wasn't really worth a lot of my time to spend doing it. But now, and I would have spent quite a bit of time researching, developing, nesting these formulas together. And instead, I spent less than 5 minutes working at a really good prompt to tell me exactly what I needed to put in that cell. I don't even remember what the formula is. I can rattle off all those other formulas I shared with you earlier, like count if, VLOOKUP, all of those I use regularly, but this I'm not going to remember. And that's what is so powerful about having Copilot as an assistant within your organization. So that concludes the training portion of this monthly tips, and I'm going to hand it back over to Emma for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Nissa, for the demonstration. That was all super cool. I definitely learned some things that I didn't know before. For everybody that is on, don't forget to click the link in our survey. I'm going to drop it in the Q&A right now. Give me one moment. If you also want to re-watch this presentation, we will be sending the recording in an email, a follow-up email next week. So make sure that you're looking out for that. And I just dropped the link to our survey. If you are interested in learning about anything further on how to implement Microsoft Copilot into your workplace, please reach out to your client engagement manager if you're a current FIT client. If you are not, you can check with your primary IT provider about AI readiness, or you can always reach out to our team here at FIT. And we hope that everybody has a great afternoon.